我上礼拜我就跟各位宣传说，今天的课非常重要，因为去年的时候应该是今年早先的时候，我发现这个 Ray Smithson， 他是一家他自己创办的公司的一个创办人，那他在 pitching 他们的这个 idea 的时候用的方法非常好，然后尤其是你们这个不管你是刚从高中到大学端来，或者是你是已经在大二、大三、大四，甚至有研究所的同学，我记得有大三、大四从那个台科大的同学来这边修课，那他教的东西一定会非常实用。所以今天这门课跟下礼拜叶秉成老师的那门课，你们一定要专心听讲。有2堂课是2个非常不一样的 style， to teach you about how to prepare your PowerPoints。To sell your ideas， 那所以你们必须要在这2堂课好好听，听完之后，你就可以自霸 PowerPoint， 那可能就会有很好的呈现你们的这个presentation 的一个方法。那所以务必要认真的听讲。那等一下，因为我必须要再回去另外一个会场 ，I need to go to another meeting. Showtime after I introduce you. So. You guys have to listen, quite focus, and to know what Ray is going to teach us about. And he gave a really nice talk about 6 months ago, and I learned a lot from him. So anyway, I hope everybody can learn the same amount of content as I did. So let's welcome Ray.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, thank you so much, Professor Ding, for the nice introduction.
I saw you for many weeks already.
Okay. Yeah. So like he said, my name is Ray Smithson, and I'm one of the co-founders of Inspire Garage. And what we do is we help business professionals and students like yourselves communicate better, either through a presentation or impact writing, resumes, interviews, these types of things. These are some of the companies that we've done trainings for so far. We've also done other companies too, but these are some of the bigger names that we've done. Intel, Google, Fujitsu, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and this is the 3rd time I've been at Taida, so thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it. Some of the students that we've taught, some of the professionals that we've taught, had some good things to say about our training. This was Sonia from Intel. She said, "The training is great. It helped me raise my voice and impact during my job." Richard at Hewlett Packard says, "Very inspiring, live, and useful." Ellen at Google said, "Thank you so much for the great training. It's really inspiring and life-changing." And that's really what we want to do at our company. We want to help students and help business professionals communicate better so they can go better and further into their jobs, maybe get a raise or get a better job than they would have otherwise. Today, we're going to go over how to sell your idea with a presentation. You might ask, what's selling an idea? Is it selling something for money? It can be. It can be selling something for money with a sales presentation. But it can also be helping people to understand your idea or to remember your idea or to share your idea. These are all important things about selling an idea. If they don't understand or remember it, they cannot accept your idea. Today we're going to go over 4 things. First, why it's important to sell your idea. Second, how to find your idea. Third, how do you present your idea? And finally, what can you do to make your idea stronger so it's easier to sell? So first, Why is it important? Well, ideas are powerful. In fact, ideas might be the most powerful thing that humans have. Ideas start companies. Ideas make scientific breakthroughs. Ideas have changed the world. Bringing it back to Taiwan, everyone I'm sure knows who this is. Guo Taiming, right? He was running for president. He's not anymore. But anyway, he's the richest man in Taiwan, and he's very good at selling an idea. You might know the story of Guo Taiming. If you don't, I'll give you a little quick overview of why he's so good. So Guo Taiming, after university, started working in a factory. Doesn't sound that special, but then he had an idea. His idea was that he wanted to start his own factory. So he had to sell that idea to 10 people, convince them that it was a good idea, and those were his first 10 employees. Then his business started growing. And he had to convince a company named Atari. You probably don't know this company. It's a video game company from France. It was, at the time, one of the biggest video game companies in the world. He convinced Atari that he could make the joysticks, the controller for their video games. And his company grew and grew till he had another idea. That idea was to go to the United States for 11 months. And he went from company to company to company selling the idea that he could give them value, that he could make something for them. And a lot of people said no. A lot of companies said no, get out of here. But some companies said yes. And those companies became his big customers. And now his company's huge. It's one of the biggest manufacturing companies in the world. And he is very good at selling an idea. If he wasn't that good, he probably wouldn't be where he is now. And you might say, oh, I don't need to be a billionaire. I don't need to be the richest person. I just want to have a good job. Well, what's the first thing you need to do to get a job? You need to do an interview. What is an interview? An interview is a presentation of your skills. You need to sell the idea that you can help that company. So that is selling your idea. Then you get the job at the company. I just did a training a few days ago at HP, and I asked everyone, how many of you have to give presentations? All of them raised their hand. How often do you give presentations? Some of them said, this morning I gave a presentation. Almost any field you work in, you're going to need to give presentations. You might say, oh, I'm going to be a scientist. Scientists are often professors too. Or they have to get funding from someone. They have to do presentations. You go to get your master's degree or your PhD. You have to give presentation for your thesis. No matter where you go, you need to be able to present your ideas. Let's say, like Guo Taiming, you want to start your own business someday. You might say, I'm not going to work for a company. I'm going to start my own business. Well, what do you have to do? You have to convince other people to join you. Then you have to convince people to give you money to start your business, probably. No matter where you go, you need to have this skill. So how do you get this idea? Well, according to Chris Anderson, who is the owner of TED.com, this is the place where they give the best presentations in the world from some of the best and highest experts in the world, from business, to anything, pretty much, is TED. He wrote a book on how to give a great TED Talk. He said, first, you need to start off with one idea. Too many people say, I'm going to make a presentation. I have so many ideas. I have 10 ideas. I'm going to put them all in PowerPoint. He says, no, start with one idea. It should be the one thing you want people to remember about your presentation. If they forget everything else, they should remember that one thing. And I'm going to have somebody come up here with a little prop here. It should also be like the heart of your presentation. So if you can please come up, we've got a volunteer here that will help me out. So think of the heart of your presentation as the most important thing. It's what makes your presentation either live or die. And if you don't know what your heart idea is, the most important idea of your presentation, then how will your listeners know what your heart idea is? Thank you. Did I wake you up? I woke you up a little bit, right? Okay. So first find your heart idea, the most important thing you want to share. Another thing about this heart idea is that it needs to have value. Like Guo Taiming showed, he could give people value. He could give companies value by making a product for them. Now, why does this car on the left not have value? Let's think of value a little bit. Does this car on the left drive? Yes or no? No, it doesn't drive. Maybe it did in the past, but it doesn't help anyone go to work or go on vacation or go to any place. So it doesn't help anyone. That's value. Do you think this car is a safe car? Would you let little children play in this car? Probably not. There's probably spiders. There might be a snake in there. It's probably broken glass. It's not even safe. What about comfortable? Do you think this car is comfortable here? No, it's all broken. It's probably not comfortable. What about cool? Does it look cool? Does it make you feel cool if you buy this car? Probably not. What about this car on the right? This is a new Lexus. So what can this car do for someone? What value can it give? Can it drive you around? Yes. That's something that it can do for you. That's why people buy this car. Do you think it's a safe car to drive? Yeah. Lexus makes a pretty safe car. What about comfort? Is it comfortable? Yeah, I'm sure it's very comfortable. What about stylish? These are all the things that this car gives, but this car doesn't. So when you design a presentation, always think about the people listening. I hear so many people go up and give a presentation, and they say, I did this, 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 and this. Or my company does this, 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 and this. Who cares if it doesn't help the people that are listening? They won't want to pay attention if it doesn't help them, if it doesn't give them value. So always think of value in that heart idea. This guy's name is Carmine Gallo, and he's one of the best presentation coaches in the United States and around the world. He helps top CEOs at some of the biggest companies give presentations. He also teaches at Harvard and Stanford, and he's written about 4 books on how to give a great presentation. He also agrees that you need to start with one idea first. And the best way to find that idea is to answer this question. What is the one most important idea I want listeners to know about my, you could say, project, my company, my product? Whatever it is, fill in that blank, then answer the question. We're going to do a little bit of a thought experiment, practice here. Everyone knows Taiwan. You probably have lived here for a while. Let's imagine that you need to give a presentation about Taiwan. You need to sell the idea that Taiwan's a great place to travel to or to live to somebody who has never heard about Taiwan before. Now, one of the things that you'll need to do is find that heart idea. And the heart idea can be two different things. It can be the most important idea, for sure, but it can also be something that you love. If you love something about Taiwan and you present on that, it's much easier for people to understand and get excited about Taiwan. People have in their brain something called mirror neurons. They're brain cells that are like a mirror. So if you are excited, it can actually make other people feel excited. If you are sad, you've probably seen this. If you see someone that's sad, it can make you feel a little bit sad. Or somebody laughing, it can make you laugh. Some people will start laughing even though they don't even know why they're laughing, you know? So these are mirror neurons. So if you're excited about something, if you're interested in something about Taiwan, and you present on that, it's much easier to sell that idea. It's much easier for people to remember, to be interested in that idea. Now, what I want you to do is find a partner sitting next to you. So everyone has somebody sitting next to them, and find your heart idea. Get a piece of paper out and try to think about this. What things do you love about Taiwan that you would present on? Some people might say, oh, I love the nature. I love the mountains. Taiwan has great mountains, ocean, these types of things, and canyons. Or the food. Maybe it's the food. What do you love about Taiwan? If you were going to sell an idea about Taiwan, what would it be? And think of it something that you love. I'll give you some time to do this. So you find your partner and try to answer this question. What is the one most important idea I want listeners to know about Taiwan? And I'll just give you a little bit of time so you can talk with your partner and work on this together. Just write some ideas down. Try to answer this question. Okay. All right, so did everyone come up with some ideas? Did you write maybe a few ideas? That might be your heart idea. If you can answer this, just write Taiwan has this. Taiwan is this, to show what your heart idea is. What are some heart ideas? Does anybody want to say their heart idea? Who likes the food in Taiwan? Who wanted food? Okay, there's some people that really like the food. What about nature and mountains? Okay, good. What about, are there any other topics that what about the people in Taiwan? Yeah, a lot of Taiwan is famous for having just great, nice people. So now that you have your heart idea, how do you build that idea? Well, according to Nancy Duarte, who's also a presentation expert, who's helped vice presidents of the United States, who's helped top leaders give presentations that have touched the lives of millions or billions of people. She's also written a book for Harvard Business Review. This is a presentation guide for Harvard Business School. And what she says, in order to build your presentation, one of the best things to do is use sticky notes. Now, why do you use sticky notes? First off, sticky notes can be kind of fun. You know, they're colorful and you can stick them all over the place. You can stick them on the wall, you can stick them on your desk. When I was at HP, one guy he stuck them all over his shirt and stuff like that. So it can be fun. And you just use, each sticky note is like one slide of your presentation. so you can see how your ideas connect together. That's one of the good reasons to use sticky notes. If you use PowerPoint and just put it straight into PowerPoint or whatever software program you have for presentations, the problem is it just shows a line. It doesn't show how your idea is connected to other ideas. So first, build it out with sticky notes, then put it into PowerPoint. So your story flows together. Your ideas are connected. This is an example of how you can do this. You have your heart idea in the middle. You have idea 1, 2, and 3. Then you have support. You can think of it like this. Your heart is in the middle of your body, and there's 2 arms, like this. And then you might have 1 leg or 2 legs, so you can be either a Y or like an X. Depends on how many ideas you want to connect to your heart idea. This is one that I did with a CEO, an activity that I did with a CEO in Taiwan. And you don't need to read all of this. We'll go through it step by step. His heart idea, the thing he loved the most about Taiwan, are the people. Taiwan has great people. Some people say the most beautiful thing in Taiwan are the people. So you can say Taiwan has great people because people are honest. An example, this extra idea needs to make the heart idea stronger. Anything you connect to that heart idea needs to make the other idea stronger, the heart idea stronger. So these are all giving more strength to the heart idea. If you lose something, people turn it in, typically. That's not the case in a lot of places, traveling through other countries. Taxis don't try to cheat you. I mean, they can, but I've never been cheated, and I've been here for 7.5 years, and I've been to some other countries where that's the first thing that happens to me. From the airport, I get cheated by a taxi driver. And then you might have a story. We're going to get into stories later. They're very important in presentations. The next arm might be Taiwan has great people because people are helpful. People go out of their way to help you. People help even if you don't ask. And I had this happened to me a lot when I first came to Taiwan. I would be walking around the MRT and I looked like I was lost, and people would just start coming and helping me because they could see a foreigner, he's lost. Yeah. So people would help me all the time. So this is very true. Taiwan has great people because people are very friendly. People say a lot of nice things. It's easy to make friends. And you might have a friend story. Now, some of these are a little bit similar, and these were his ideas. So there's not a real right or wrong way to do this. This is your heart idea. Now, what I want you to do now is try building out an idea. Connect some ideas to that heart idea you just found. You can make it look like this, but it's probably easier because you don't have sticky notes. Who has sticky notes? Most people probably don't. So you can just draw it on a piece of paper. Try connecting 3 ideas to your heart idea. Work with your partner. Try to figure out if let's say you and your partner are going to present together. Try to think of 3 ideas that make this heart idea stronger. I'll give you a few minutes to do this, and I'll just kind of walk around. All right. Does everyone have some ideas connected to their heart idea? Okay. If you're going to build this out yourself, when you're going to give a presentation, you might want to connect some other support ideas to that. Now, we're not going to do it right now because this takes a little bit of time. But I just wanted you to start getting the first, second, and third idea. Then you can connect some support ideas. You can do this with drawing or sticky notes. At home, I would suggest using sticky notes. It's a lot funner to use sticky notes. You can, stick them on your forehead, whatever. So sticky notes are great tools for presenting. I have some sticky notes here. Who would like some sticky notes for your next presentation? Let's see how good you can catch. Don't let the sticky notes hit you in the head, okay? All right, ready? Oh, you got some. Okay, good catch. Let's see who can catch. Ready? Oh. They're kind of hard to throw. They don't go very far. Let's see. I'll try to get some further here. Ready? Oh, good catch. Good catch. Here's some more ones. Here's some more pink ones. Oh, good catch. Okay, and we've got the heart sticky notes. Let's see who can catch these. All right. Ready? I'm going to throw them far, and we'll see who can catch them. Oh, they broke in half. Okay. One more. We got some blue ones here. Oh, good catch. Good catch. Your next presentation, use sticky notes. Use those ones I gave you, or go to the store and get some. They're really good tools. Now that you have your ideas and your heart idea, what can you do to build the presentation and get ready to present? Well, one of the best ways that I've found is to use the 3 S's. The 3 S's are C, simple, stories. What's C? It's exactly what it sounds like. Like pictures, videos, things that you can see. There's a lot of research that shows pictures are much easier to remember than words. You may have heard a picture's like 1,000 words. It's kind of true. And it's also much easier for you to remember pictures. And that's one of the first things you want people to do, is to understand and remember your idea. If they don't do that, they didn't buy your idea. If they can't even remember it. So what do? Use more pictures and less words. More pictures and less words. But you have to be careful where you get your pictures. If you're just going to get them off Google, let's say you have a presentation on dogs that you have to give, and you need some pictures, so you go to Google, search dogs. You can go down to images. After that, you can go to tools, and it'll pull a drop-down menu here. Then you got to go to usage rights. If you're going to get photos that are okay to use, this shows if you can use it or not. Then click labeled for reuse with modification. Only after then you will get pictures that you can reuse. But also be careful, because sometimes they ask you to put the name of the artist or the name or the website, something on the slide or wherever you're using it. And after you do your search, you put all that in, you can get your picture of your dog if you want. It can be any topic. One of the very best ways to get pictures for your presentation is to use your own camera. You don't have to worry about copyrights if you take your own pictures. Maybe some of you have a great camera at home and you love taking photos. But also, smartphones have pretty good cameras these days. You can take really good photos with a smartphone, new iPhone, Samsung, whatever. So take your own photos. Maybe you have a project. You can take pictures of each step of the project to show when you give your presentation. You can also use a short video. Maybe use 1 or 2 minute video at the most. Don't put long videos so that you don't have to present. I'll just show you a video. Just a short video. But videos can be very powerful. In fact, I've got a video here. You may recognize this guy. He's the former CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs. What I want you to do is pay attention to how he presents. Look at the slides that he makes. Remember, simple stories. Look and see if he uses a lot of pictures or a lot of words. I'll play it right here. Just pay attention and I'll ask you some questions afterwards. All right, you may have guessed that was the launch of the first iPhone. Steve Jobs is well known as being one of the very best presenters of all time. What did you notice about his slides? Did you notice a lot of words? No. He almost never uses a complete sentence. In fact, he often uses one word or even just a small number. What about pictures? Does he use a lot of things that you can see? Yes. He was a master at getting people to pay attention to the one thing he wanted them to pay attention and not all the other things on the slide. So if he wanted you to focus on one thing, he would show you one thing at a time. It's very simple. His presentations were simple. So that's the second S. See simple stories. In fact, all of his slides followed something called the 3-second rule. The 3-second rule is something used in advertising, because advertisers know that if people cannot understand something in 3 seconds or less, they won't pay attention to it. So the 3-second rule says they need to understand each slide in less than 3 seconds. That's a problem with a lot of presentations. A lot of people will make a slide that takes 10 minutes to understand. The 3-second rule helps people to understand it, to remember it, and to pay attention. This is an example of one of Steve Jobs' slides. It's just a picture and a date. In 1984, they introduced the Macintosh. He just shows you the only thing that he wants you to pay attention to at the time that he's saying it. He does say a lot of words, but he doesn't put all the words on his presentation. So think of using only one thing per slide. One idea or one thing per slide helps people to remember and understand it better. And that's all about buying that idea. If you're selling an idea, they have to understand. They have to remember it. But what does one thing per slide equal? What does that mean? If you're creating one thing per slide, that means you need to make more slides. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I've heard that you need to make your presentation simple. So they say, I'm only going to do 4 slides. It's so simple, 4 slides. That's the opposite of what it should be. Because if you only do 4 slides, you might have to put lots of information on one slide. And that slide will not follow the 3-second rule. It'll be harder for people to understand. People probably won't remember it. So instead, make more slides, each slide having one thing on it only. One idea. You can put a few pictures on one slide, but one of the things you see Steve Jobs do, and a lot of really good presenters do, they'll just put one giant picture. It's called a full bleed image. Instead of putting lots of images, just put one big one. Let them focus on one thing at a time. This is an example from one of my friend's company. This is normal. You see this all the time in business. It's just tons of numbers and things like this all over the screen. Does this follow the 3-second rule? No. Maybe it follows the 5-minute rule. It might take even longer to understand that. This is another example. Everyone should know Bill Gates, Microsoft CEO. Is this slide follow the 3-second rule? No. This is when he launched the Microsoft Live platform a while back. And he got a lot of feedback from people. A lot of presentation coaches said that was just really confusing. These slides, what does this slide mean? It has all these pictures and arrows and things, but what does it mean? It's confusing to people. You should never confuse the people listening. It should be simple, easy to understand. But luckily, Bill Gates, he had a lot of great coaches and he has a lot of experience. Now he's one of the best presenters. He's given a lot of TED Talks, and his slides look a lot more like this. Big picture, a few words. Instead of filling a slide with everything you have, and it's called information overload, and it makes it hard for people to remember it. So think of taking something big like this and breaking it into smaller pieces. So instead of having one slide with many things on it, make more slides with just one thing on it. It's a little bit like this. Let's say you go to your friend's house and you have a delicious piece of chocolate cake, a huge piece of delicious chocolate cake for your friend. But you tell your friend, here, you have to eat it all at once, and shove it in your friend's mouth. Do you think your friend will like you after that? No. Do you think your friend will enjoy the chocolate cake? No. Your friend will probably remember that. That's one, they probably will remember that. But think of it the same as your slides. If you have a slide with too many things on it, it's like trying to give the audience a big piece of chocolate cake all at one time. What's the best way to eat chocolate cake? One bite at a time. You may only spend a few seconds on each slide, but it should only be one thing per slide, so people can digest what you're saying, people can understand, and they will remember it, especially if you use more photos. Photos help a lot. You say, but I need words on my slide. I need words because that's how I remember what to say in my presentation. I see tons of presentations where people have lots of words and they're just reading the presentation. Okay? Why are you giving a presentation? You could just send it to them by email. They can read it themselves, right? You want people to focus on one thing at a time rather than just reading and reading and reading. You are the one presenting. So you can say what you want to say about your topic and then just use your slide to help them remember it with a photo. But to get around this putting too many words on a slide, you can use presenter view. Presenter view is common, and I'm surprised even in top businesses, very few people use presenter view. Maybe only half the students I talk to use it, but it's one of the best tools that you can have. So presenter view looks like this. To me, it looks like this. A lot of you may have used it, and some of you may have not. So this is the slide that you would see, and this is what I would see with my notes. So you don't have to have all the words on the slide. You can just write them in your notes. You should probably not just read from your notes either, because that means you're going to be looking down at your computer the whole time. Just if you need to help remember something for your slide, you can look down. It'll help you remember what you need to say for your slide. Now, this is just to show you how to get into presenter view if you've never done it before. It's pretty easy.
To get into presenter view, you first take your arrow here from your mouse and go down to the bottom of the screen where this gray line is. You can see the mouse changes, the arrow changes when you go over this line. So when it changes, you can click on that and then pull it up. When you pull it up, it will open up notes. So you can see it says click to add notes. You can add whatever you want. These are my notes. And don't use too many words on your slide. Okay, so now you have your slide with your notes. To get into presenter view, you take your arrow and go to the top of the screen and find view. Click on view and go down to presenter view. Now, presenter view will show you the slide right here that you just created, and it will show your notes on the side. But your viewers cannot see your notes. Only you can see the notes. You can also see the next slide that will come. You can see the slides in order on the bottom.
So this is what you will see, and this is what I will see with my notes. Use presenter view. It's much better than putting lots of words on your presentation. So the last S. First was see. What's the next one? Simple. Last one is stories. So why are stories important? Well, again, according to Carmine Gallo, stories are extremely important. He wrote an entire book called The Storyteller's Secret. And he says, and also Chris Anderson says, that stories are powerful because we have been telling stories to each other for thousands of years. It's deep within human history to tell stories. In fact, history is just a bunch of stories. Why do we like movies? Because they're stories. Stories are also one of the first ways that people taught their children about different things that they needed to. They would tell a story. And it's very easy to remember a story. You probably remember some stories your parents told you or your friend told you many years ago. So if you want your audience to remember something, give them some emotion, give them a story. It doesn't have to be your story. It could be a friend's story. It could be a famous person's story. As long as it connects and makes your heart idea stronger, it can make your presentation more powerful. In fact, stories make some of the most popular TED Talks. This is Sir Ken Robinson. He has the most popular TED Talk of all time. And the subject that he talked about was education change. Why would so many people want to watch a TED Talk about changing education? Sounds a little bit boring, but he had a bunch of really interesting stories, funny stories. People were laughing most of the time. His whole talk was story after story after story. And everyone remembers that talk. It's one of the best TED Talks of all time. So you'll remember back, this outline that we made had 3 stories. You don't have to have 3, you can have 1 story. It's good to bring a story in. So this next activity, I want you and your partner to figure out some stories that you might have about your heart idea that will make that idea stronger. Just think of stories. It's kind of fun. It can be a funny story. It can be an interesting or a scary story. Whatever it is, tell some stories between each other that you can think of about your heart idea, about Taiwan. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll just kind of walk around. All right. Did everyone find some good stories? Stories can be pretty fun. Stories can be fun to tell and fun to listen to. So you probably found some good ones. You might have had your own story or a friend's story or a famous person's story. So now that you have stories and you have your presentation, what can you do to make that idea stronger? What can you do? Well, this is an easy way to remember it. Think of the ABCs of giving a presentation. First is appearance, body, and then confidence. Pretty easy to remember, ABC. So what is appearance? Appearance is really just how you look. So if you're going to give a presentation, even if it's in the university and you're just doing it in front of your classmates, right now is a good time to start practicing dressing a little bit better for presentations. Because when you become a professional, let's say you're doing sales or any other kind of profession, you'll need to dress more professionally. And you might say, oh, yeah, but I saw Steve Jobs. He was just wearing jeans and tennis shoes. Okay, well, Steve Jobs is one of the only people in the world that could do that. Until you're the CEO of Apple or a big company, then you can do whatever you want. All right? Until then, it's always good to dress nicely. It also helps you to feel a little bit more confident. One of the main reasons you want to dress nicely is that often people, if they haven't heard about your idea, this is the first time they've heard about it, or the first time they've seen you, you are advertising your idea. They think of you and your idea as the same thing. So if you're dressed badly, people might not be that interested in your idea. They might say, this idea might not be that good. But if you're dressed professionally, it's like a good advertisement for your idea. It does help a lot. First impressions are very important. Think of it like this. Imagine you wanted to go buy something on the internet, and the website that you went to looked like this. Is this very good advertising for their company? This is a real website, by the way. It's a very old website, but it's a real website. Would this make you want to buy something from them? What if they were selling expensive watches or whatever? You probably wouldn't want to buy it. It looks like they might rip you off or steal your money because they don't even care about their website. You want to make your product look better, like the packaging of a product. If you take something like a new Samsung phone, it has a nice package. You get a new iPhone, it has a nice package. If an iPhone or a Samsung came to you in an old, bad-looking brown box, would you kind of be like, what? What's this? Why did I pay so much money for it? This is an example of our website. It's not the best website in the world. It's actually just a landing page for our company. We're building another platform for training too, but you can see it looks a bit more modern. It's better than this one, right? Anything's better than this one. So you want to make it look better. So you are the person that they see first for your idea. So dress nicely. And practice it now, because when you go into a company or you start your own business and you have to give presentations, it's good to practice it now. If you come to an important presentation just wearing jeans, does this look very professional for an important presentation? If you're just practicing, it's not a problem. She's just practicing, so I don't want to make fun of her too much. But if you're going to give a big presentation for school, for let's say your master's thesis, would you go to your master's thesis dressed like this? They have to decide if you're going to get a master's degree or not, or your doctor's thesis, a PhD or not. You want them to see that you are a professional person. So dress nicely. It always helps. Now, what can you do with your body to to make it easier to sell your idea? Well, you shouldn't have bad body language. Bad body language is not good. In fact, what I want you to do is I want everyone to please stand up. And try not to stand up in front of the camera, I guess. But if you can stand up, please, everyone. It's good to stretch your legs. You stretch your legs out. Yeah. Is it still, can you still see back there? It's okay? So what is bad body language? What's something you should not do when you're giving a presentation? What about this? When you're giving a presentation, should you be looking at the screen, not your audience? Like this the whole time? If I came out on stage and I was just doing this the whole time and reading, would you pay attention to me? Probably not, because I am not paying attention to you. You should look at your audience. Look at them in the eyes. They will pay more attention to you if you look at them. But bad body language, just think of closing yourself off. If you're nervous, how would you stand if you are nervous? Show me a nervous stance. Let's see. Yeah, you close your arms. Maybe you turn away, you look down. A lot of people do this when they present. The problem with this is that your brain and your body are connected. So when you put your body in a nervous position, your brain starts feeling more nervous, and then you start getting more nervous body language. It gets worse and worse. One of the best ways to fix that is use good body language. Another thing that people do is they'll play with their hands a lot or stick their hands in their pocket, or they move back and forth too much, or they speak too fast. Speaking too fast sometimes means you're nervous. You can slow down a little bit. Slow down. Sometimes pause. Stop for a little bit. Let them look at the picture and understand it instead of talk. That's okay. What's good body language? Okay, how would you stand with good body language? Let's see your good body language. If you're going to give a presentation, what's confident body language? You're doing the dance? Yeah, you can start dancing if you're really confident, yeah. So good body language is a bit more open. People that are not afraid usually have their bodies a little bit more open. If you're scared, you kind of cover up. You kind of close off and look away. If you're confident, you open up. Use your hands to communicate. Carmine Gallo says, use your hands. Some of the best presenters talk with their hands. He also says, keep your thumbs up. It's like it's kind of a friendly looking thing, like you shake someone's hand. You can talk like this, keep your thumbs up when you're presenting. Don't go like this and point. That's kind of looks mean, right? So use open body language. What about a smile? Does a smile help? Yeah, we talked about mirror neurons before. If you're smiling, it helps people feel a bit happier. If you're really angry and this and that, people might start getting angry. I don't know. Another thing, so let's do this together. Let's all stand up. Just keep your feet maybe shoulder width apart, and keep your chin level. Don't go up like this, like you're so cool. You just keep your chin level, and get your shoulders and pull them back, and then just drop them down comfortably. Drop them comfortably down, and just be relaxed, and keep your arms open when you talk. Don't walk around too much. Stay in one spot. You can move over around a little bit. And this is one mistake I see all the time. Some people spend most of their time looking at the screen. This is one of the things. With good body language, like I said, you need to look at people's eyes. And if you have presenter view down and your computer's right in front of you, it's very easy to look down without putting your head down. You can just put your eyes down real quick, to remember what you need to say. Look down, and you can keep looking at people rather than turning away from people all the time. Another thing that can help you a lot, I do it, a lot of presenters do it. If you're getting nervous, one way to calm down is to take some deep breaths. It relaxes you. So let's take 3 deep breaths together. We'll go in, then out. Ready? In, out, in, out, in, out. Do you feel more relaxed? Yes. Somebody's falling asleep. No. Yes, you probably feel a lot more relaxed. When you're nervous, it can also make other people nervous. You don't want to be too nervous. It's so easy to become nervous. In fact, that's our last thing that we're talking about, is confidence. And since you guys were so good and you did so well, you can sit down now. Thank you very much. So the last thing, what was the first A? A, can anybody remember? A is appearance. B is what? Body. And C is what? Okay, let's see if you can remember the 3 S's. What are the 3 S's? C, simple, stories. Okay, C is for confidence. We talked a little bit about getting more confidence by using good body language. But what's the best way to get more confidence? Because if you're confident when you speak, it really helps people to be more confident in your idea. First, I want to ask a question. Who in here does not get nervous when they speak to a group of people at all? You like giving presentations, so fun. Anybody? Anybody really like giving presentations? And you're not nervous when you give the presentation? Anybody? Okay. I don't know if you've been to room 102 over there, just down the hall. It's even bigger, maybe twice as big as this classroom. There was a lot of students in it. I asked them the same question. I said, who's confident and who's not nervous when they present? And I saw somebody raise their hand, and I said, oh, you're not nervous when you present. Great. And she said, no, I'm just putting on my jacket. So, yeah, most people are nervous when they give a presentation. Almost everyone. Few people are not nervous. Few people are natural presenters. It's really something you have to practice. In fact, I'll give you a story about a college student like yourselves. His name's Johnny. Johnny hated giving presentations. It was his worst fear in his whole life. It was like the last thing he ever wanted to do. Because when he gave presentations, he would start sweating, and he would start shaking, and his voice would start shaking. And sometimes he would forget the words he needed to say because he was so nervous. And he felt like he embarrassed himself all the time in front of his friends because he was so nervous during presentations. But Johnny was a pretty good student. In fact, he was a very good student. He still got good grades in college because he tried really hard. And it's pretty fair in university, right? If you try hard and your professor sees that you're nervous, it's okay. You'll still get a good grade, probably. But in the real world, is it like that? If you're a salesperson and you give a presentation, it's either you make the sale or you don't. It's not like that in the real world typically. But at least it was fair in college, and they gave him good grades because he did great on his tests, and he tried hard even though he was nervous. In fact, he was such a good student that they gave him a letter. And they said, we would like you to be the valedictorian because your grades are the highest in the school. And we would also like you to give the speech, the first speech for graduation, in front of all his friends, family, his other students, all the teachers. When he heard that, he was so afraid. He was scared. That was the scariest thing that he'd ever heard of, is getting in front of thousands of people. So he went to his parents. He went to his mom and dad. And he told them, the school asked me to be a valedictorian, but they want me to give the speech. I think I'm going to tell them no. I'm not going to do the speech. And his parents said, well, if you don't give this speech, if you don't do this, you will be sad that you didn't for the rest of your life. It's a great honor. Few people ever get the chance to give a graduation speech. You should do it. Try to get over your fear. They believed in him. And he said, well, that's right. That's true. I would regret it if I didn't do it. So what did he do? He was a good student. He tried to learn as much as he could. He went to his professors. They have to talk in front of lots of people all the time. He asked them how they did it. He went to YouTube and Google and learned as much as he could. He looked into books and tried to learn about it. And the one thing that he kept learning is that, wow, presentations or getting in front of people is a skill. And if you practice it, you can get more confidence. So what did he do? First, he practiced his body language. He wrote his speech, and he practiced his body language in front of a mirror. He practiced confident body language to try to trick his brain, because if you use confident body language, it can kind of trick your brain to feeling less nervous. And so he looked in the mirror and tried to make sure his body language was good. He took some deep breaths to calm himself down. And he started feeling a bit more confident. Okay, so he went in front of some friends and family and gave his speech and got feedback. And he also tried to use good body language. And when he started feeling nervous, he just would take a deep breath. Because you can stop sometimes and just take a deep breath, calm down. And he got good feedback, and he started feeling a bit more confident. So he said, okay, I got to get over this fear. I got to get in front of more people. So he went in front of a classroom of about 30 people, and he was a bit nervous, but you know, he used his confident body language, he used good breathing, and he gave his speech. And people gave him some feedback, and he started feeling a bit more confident. But he said, wow, this is not a big enough class. It's only 30 people. I need to get in front of more people to get over my fear. Because I'm going to go in front of thousands of people. I need to get over this fear now. So he went in front of a big classroom of about 250 people, a theater classroom with a big audience. And he said, can I practice my speech? I said, yeah. And he gave his speech. He even had a story that was kind of a funny story. And people laughed at his story. And he felt good. They clapped and they said, great job. He said, wow, maybe I can do this. So on the day when he went in front of thousands of people, he was not very nervous. He didn't start sweating. He didn't start shaking. He didn't forget his words. In fact, people laughed at his story and clapped and said, great job. So that feeling that he had, that horrible, scared feeling that he had about giving this speech, turned into an amazing feeling. It was one of the best days of his life. And I have a secret to tell you about Johnny. Johnny's name wasn't really Johnny. Johnny's name was Ray. That was me when I was a college student. And that was my biggest fear, is giving a presentation in front of people. But now I do it at some of the top companies around Taiwan. It's my job now, and I actually enjoy it. And I promise you, if you're afraid of getting in front of people, you can get over that fear. If I can do it, I promise you can. It's not something that you're born with. I used to think that. Oh yeah, these people that are good at presenting, maybe they were just born that way. That's what, and I'll never be that way. I can never do this. But I got over that fear and it felt great. It feels amazing to knock down a fear. In fact, I told you about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was one of the best presenters of all time. Was he a natural presenter? No. You look at some of his early presentations, some of his early interviews, and he looks nervous. He looks very nervous. Steve Jobs is famous for practicing and practicing and practicing until he looks natural. He knows all of the things that he wants to say. So if Steve Jobs has to practice, you should practice too. This is the best time to practice for you. In university, when it's fair, when you get a grade, 90% for trying hard. Because when you get into the real world, it's usually 100% or zero. You either get the sale or you don't. You get the job or you don't. So practice now and get good at it. So what can you do? Learn as much as you can. Learn. Get in front of, everyone has a mirror, I'm sure. Get in front of a mirror and practice confident body language. When you have a presentation, practice your presentation in front of the mirror. It helps a lot. Get in front of a camera. I didn't have this whenever I was in university. I didn't have a smartphone. But it's one of the best tools that you can use. Why? Because you can see yourself, you can see your body language, you can hear your voice, you can see what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. You can be your own coach. Take a video of yourself. It helps. Also, get in front of people. To get over that fear, you need to get in front of people. And what better time to get in front of people than in front of classrooms when you have to give a presentation? So this is a great time to practice. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to bring you up here and practice. I know maybe you were thinking that. Unless somebody really wants to come up here. Anybody want to come up here, finish the presentation? It's okay. You don't have to do that. What I want to do to help you with your next presentation is I'm going to give you a one-page summary of all the things we learned today. These things, you can take this and look at the back. It has that question to find your heart idea. It has the 3 S's. What are those again? See? What are the ABCs of presenting? And confidence, right? It has those things, and it gives you a little bit more information about it. Another thing that you can do, actually, can you guys pass these out, please? So they'll pass these out. Another thing that you can do is read some great books. This is the official TED guide to giving a TED Talk, written by Chris Anderson, who's coached hundreds of the best TED speakers. This is Carmine Gallo's book, the Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. And Nancy Duarte's book for Harvard Business Review about how to give a great presentation, a persuasive presentation. So we'll let everyone practice or pass these out. Does everyone have one yet? Okay. It'll take a little bit to pass them out. But what I wanted to say is thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for everything. We actually ended a little bit early, a few minutes early, but we do have a question and answer. So I'll stay around to answer any questions that you have, and please ask me questions. I'd be happy to answer them. And do you want me to just maybe put a chair up here or just stand up here and people ask questions, or how do you want to do it? Okay. All right. So I'll leave the last part of the class open to any questions that you might have. Any questions about my company? Any questions about presentations? Anything? Anything you want to ask me, anything that doesn't even have anything to do with my company, that's fine. I don't care.
Okay. Is telling a joke really suitable for a formal presentation?
It depends on the joke. Actually, there's an entire book on presenting, and I'm trying to remember. It's an Irish guy who went to get better at presenting. He went to do stand-up comic work, and so he went in front of stages and presented and told jokes. Now he's a presentation coach, because everyone likes something that makes them laugh, right? But you got to be careful. If you say something that makes the jokes that you tell have to be very carefully thought out, because you don't want to offend someone or make someone angry, or you can't tell, bad jokes in a school or a company, because people will get offended. So you have to be careful what kind of jokes. But yeah, jokes or stories that are a bit funny. I mean, a lot of the best TED Talks, like I said, Ken Robinson, I mean, a lot of actual jokes that comedians say, people that say jokes on stage, are often stories. If you look at it, it's usually a story of some kind. So stories are okay to say, and especially if they're a little bit funny, sometimes people are more likely to pay attention to them. But just be very careful about who your audience is, and don't tell a joke that might make some people angry or make them offended. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Yeah, jokes or stories that are funny are excellent if you can tell. And it's good to practice those out on people and make sure they're funny, because you don't want to get in front of a big group of people and say your story and nobody laughs. That's not fun. So practice it on people and make sure they laugh when you tell it. Any other questions? Anybody? I'm happy to answer. Oh, there's one back there. Or two. There's two.
Thank you for a good lecture.
Yeah.
And my question is how to deliver a good story. Is there some tips?
Yeah, that's a whole nother class, but it's a really good question. That's a good question. There are storylines. Has anybody heard of the hero's journey? A storyline. There's some great, you can look up YouTube videos on this. The hero's journey is kind of a template for a story. In fact, this type of story is used all the time in movies. It goes something like this. A normal person has some type of challenge, and then they have a mentor, someone like, think of the Lord of the Rings. Have you seen Lord of the Rings? I don't know. I don't know what it is in Chinese, actually. But maybe, yeah. It's a key movie that has this hero's journey. Somebody has a problem, and then somebody helps them with the problem, and then they get over that problem, and then another problem hits them, and then they have to get over that problem. And then they keep doing that, they come back home, and they've learned so much more from what they've experienced. That's one type of story called the hero's journey. And there are stories like this that have been told for thousands of years that follow the same pattern. So I would suggest there's really good books on storytelling. Learning about storytelling is great. I can't teach you everything about storytelling. Be excited when you tell a story. We talked about mirror neurons. if you're excited and it's a story that really you feel in your heart, it's much more likely that people will be connected to that. So that's one thing that I can tell you. Try to find something that is really cool to you, and more people will probably think it's cool also. And tell it with emotion. Try to get people's emotions connected with your story. And it takes practice. You might have to practice that story in front of your friends or family many times. They can give you feedback and say, oh, maybe you can change this. But also learn as much as you can about stories like the hero's journey. And you can put your story into that template and tell a story like that. So there are different story templates that you can use. One of them is the hero's journey that I can think of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anybody else? I saw somebody over here raise their hand earlier. Another person over here.
Well, I have heard that somebody tells me that if you want to grab somebody's attention at the first of the presentation, you need to start with a conversation or interaction or question. So how can I create a question?
How can you create a question? Well, this is one of the key things, is that you have to know who your listeners are. So if you create a question that doesn't apply to them, then they might not care about it. The main thing is thinking about who is listening to your presentation. So you might have between, if you're giving a presentation in one class, a science class, or an art class, you might have a totally different type of question, but get something, I would say just a question that makes people think and starts a conversation. In fact, one of the things to do that you can do if you want to get interaction is to get the crowd to interact with each other. You notice that I did this a few times in the activities, right? There were pairs of people and they were working together to do that. So you can't always talk, everyone can't always talk to the speaker, but partners can talk to each other. That's one thing you can do, is add something, a question to them, and have them discuss it, because it helps them to learn more when you're talking to someone face to face. So that does help. You can do that. Did that answer your question? Is there anything else that you wanted to know?
It's kind of casual way, but I want to know about the official way. Like if I want to give a presentation in a business, maybe lunch, press or something.
So you start off the presentation with a question. Yeah, I don't know if I've read a lot of books, I've given a lot of presentations, and I don't know of a specific official question type that you can use, honestly. I'll be honest with you. There's all different kinds of presentations. The ones that I've learned is usually you introduce your subject, and then you can get some interactive questions later. But you can ask a question to get people to think, but I don't know of a specific way to ask that question that applies to all presentations. I think it really matters to who your audience is, and also to your creativity. I think anyone that's creating a presentation that wants to create a good question just needs to work on it and try to think of what question would get people to think. You can always think of the what, where, why, when, and how questions, and then just brainstorm. Practice with your friends and family and see if it gets them interacting. And get feedback. Feedback is one of the main things that you can have in a presentation, is getting in front of people, asking them that question, and seeing if it gets them to start thinking and having a little bit of a conversation. Experiment with whatever question you want. Maybe it's a science class and you have to give a presentation on, there are TED Talks that do start off with a question. Like you could say, what is the meaning of life? Something to get people thinking. That, for short presentations, you can do that, but it has to be tailored very carefully to the audience and what your topic is. So I can't really give you probably a format for that, really. But it's just, if you think about a good question and you ask it sincerely, it will probably help a lot. So you just spend some time figuring out a good question for the beginning is all I could say, probably. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the good lecture. I have a question. What would you suggest for someone who has problem expressing themselves? Because I have been having this problem my entire life.
Okay, so expressing yourself. Expressing yourself is something that's difficult, especially if you're shy. This is an example. I used to work with a guy that had a difficult time. A long time ago, I worked at a restaurant, okay? And one of the guys that worked there was very shy. He worked in the kitchen. And he was the most shy person you might ever meet. He would only say a few words. So he had a hard time expressing himself. You know, what he did was he realized that in the US, the servers at restaurants make more money because they get more tips. In Taiwan, I don't think they get a lot of tips. Like after the food is over, you get your money and then you give some to the server. So he wanted to make a little bit more money, so they asked him to be a server, and he had to get in front of people, just one-to-one all the time. And it was interesting because he went from a very quiet person that had a hard time expressing himself to a person that was very talkative all the time. He was more outgoing because he forced himself to get in front of people and talk. It's very difficult, just like the problem that I had of giving presentations in university. If you have a hard time expressing yourself or you're a bit shy, you have to get in front of your biggest fear. And you've got to do it. And if you do it, I promise you, if you can get over that fear, it does feel amazing. It feels great. So if you do have a hard time expressing yourself, just force yourself to talk with more people. Find a job that makes you do it. Go to do sales for a bit or something that forces you to talk to people, just so that you can get a little bit more relaxed when you talk to people. And it does help a lot to just practice and practice and practice. There's very few things that you can't get better at through practicing over and over again. Does that answer your question? Does it help at all?
Yes, that was very helpful.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Like, a lot of people have a problem expressing themselves, and if you get in front of other people and just force yourself to do it, it will get easier and easier if you do it again and again. I promise. It does get easier if you practice.
Can you tell us more about your company?
Yeah, our company, my company. I started it a couple years ago. I've been living in Taiwan for 7 years, and my business partner is actually with Intel, and he's from Canada, and he's helped some people get into different, like Harvard, and some jobs at Google and different things like that. And he knew that I was teaching, and that he heard good things from a friend, and we started becoming friends. And he's more of the industry specialist, so we work together to create material like this. I teach it, and we work together. Sometimes we do trainings where both of us are here. He's actually in the United States right now. But our company, we started getting invited to different companies like Google and Intel and these places to do trainings like impact writing. So impact writing is like resume writing. Have everyone written a resume? Who's written a resume for a job yet? You know what a resume is? It's one piece of paper that shows what you've done. Has anybody written a resume yet? Okay, some people have, a few people. Well, this is the thing, is that often for Taiwanese companies, it's a resume is a different format. It's kind of like a form with a picture, right? And for US companies like Google and Intel, A resume really has to show a lot of impact. It has to show a lot of action about what you did. It takes a lot of time to get good at making resumes. So we help students like you. We help actually business professionals do some things like similar to a resume. It's a review that they have to have, business emails, those types of things. And we're building a platform to start training students to get into good companies, internships. Does everyone know what an internship is? It's kind of like working while you're in school. It's a really good way to build your resume. And so we help students do that. And we're also building a platform to get some more digital training for that. But right now we're just doing groups of students and helping them with their communication, really. Any other questions? Did that answer your question? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask, what's the differences between, you just say that practice, like you practice with 30
Yeah.
and 250 and thousands of people, but what I'm curious about I connect with the audience with like more, like not that much, or thousands of people.
So a small group or a big group, right? This is an interesting thing, and that's a great question. I will tell you one thing. It's actually easier to talk to a group of thousands of people. It's weird. You know why? Because it's like an ocean of people, and you can't really see, one or two people staring at you. And some of the most nervous times that I've been, after that, I started training to do like a sales presentation. I was the vice president of the business club, and I started doing competitions between all the other universities on how to give a sales presentation. And this was difficult. I ended up doing well. I got second in the state of Utah, where I'm from, out of all the universities. But I was actually more nervous when there was a group of 4 or 5 judges. That's it. There was 4 or 5 people watching me and writing notes. That's scary. That's scarier than 1,000 people, I promise. So it's kind of strange. You would think a lot of people are harder to talk to, but it's actually the opposite. Sometimes if they're judging you and you're doing a competition, it's sometimes kind of makes you nervous if it's just a few people. So yeah, that's with a large group of people, you can still keep eye contact, but try to keep eye contact with some individuals. Some people, you can't go to everyone's eyes, but make sure you're looking at people. Maybe some people over here, maybe some people in the middle while you're presenting. But yeah, it is actually scarier to present to like 4 judges or 3 judges. So big groups of people are kind of a little bit easier, honestly. It seems the opposite, right? Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I don't know if you mentioned it before, but may I ask you, why did you choose to come to Taiwan?
Oh, why did I come to Taiwan? Okay, well, one of my professors was Taiwanese, and I asked him questions about Taiwan, and he said a lot of good things about Taiwan. And I said, wow, Taiwan's a cool place. You can learn Chinese, and it's really beautiful. It's got mountains, and also the business school was encouraging people to go international. And so I thought, wow, well, Asia's a good place for business. I want to go to Taiwan for 1 year and see if I can learn Chinese. It's so hard to learn Chinese. It's super difficult. But I thought I could learn some in a year, but then I found out how difficult Chinese is. I thought it was kind of easy, and then I came and I was like, all my tones are wrong. And nobody can understand me. I have to practice more. And I came just thinking I would be here for a year and to look for business opportunities and see what I could do. And I was working for some companies in the US, going also to factories in Taiwan. or in China and things like that. But after that first year, I thought, well, I really like Taiwan. So now it's been about 7.5 years. So yeah, Taiwan's a great place. But that's why I first came to Taiwan, is because I had a Taiwanese professor that told me about Taiwan. I didn't know a lot about Taiwan, actually. So you live in a great country. It's a great place. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.